Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome to the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. And everyone, hey, welcome into the program. So today on the show, we have the one, the only Mr. Nathan Evans, a Popzara.com managing editor. And hey, it's going to be a really fun show. We always enjoy having him on Friday because, he's very relaxing, always fun to talk to. And, we cover things on the show that sometimes we really don't either get to or we really don't cover. Can't be talking about mechanical keyboards all day. You have to have fun with it. So with that being said, Nathan will be joining us here in just a moment. But everyone, first things first, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, all the shows, as well as the show notes, the podcast, and links to social media. And over on the right for the next, I want to say like 2 days, there is the Computer America giveaway where we're doing hundreds of dollars worth of prizes, some book collections by some of our guests, and a lot more. So we're trying to give away as many things to as many people as we can. And to enter, it's absolutely free. We recommend that you do it. You can still get a couple entries in. And I think as of this entry, or as of this time, I think we're closing in on 300,000 entries. So we want to say thank you so much for entering that. And we hope that, hey, we would like everyone to win, but by the way, I'm sorry, we're actually at 305,000 entries. So perfect. We'll draw the winners at the at just a minute after it happens, and then we'll get in contact with the winners and send off all the prizes, and then that'll be that. And I think that'll be a successful 30th anniversary. So there you go. Now, with that being said, everyone, computeramerica.com one last time. Now, as I said before, our guest today is Nathan Evans, managing editor of Popzara magazine. And of course, you may recognize the name also because Popzara and their team of writers and researchers and just everything that they do over there. They also help us with our convention coverage, be it E3, be it CES. Nathan's very good at managing him and his team to cover everything about technology, entertainment, media, and more. So, Nathan, welcome back onto the program. How you been?
And Ben, what's going on? I'm back.
I'm happy that you're back too.
I'm back. I am back on this beautiful Friday.
Yeah. No, well, depending on where you are, it actually rained, but I think compared to a lot of the weird weather places like Texas have gotten and things like that.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Where I'm coming from, I'm in the middle of the country. We had negative 30 in Kansas. No, not good. So
I heard that in a lot of places in the U.S. It was actually colder in the U.S. than it was in Canada. Which is insane. Yes. Canadians insane. are deporting their temperatures to America. It's really awful. But
it's how they attack. They're passive aggressive up there.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they said they're sorry. But with that being said, Nathan, before we get started with kind of topics of the day and stories and things like that, why don't we go ahead and tell the nice people about Popzara.com and what people will find there when they go there.
Oh, wow. Well, you will find a website. No, you'll find a website with lots of color, lots of creative things. We are an all-encompassing smorgasbord of pop culture entertainment. And for example, like if you look at the front page right now, which has been slightly modified, you will see books, you will see video games, you will see movies, you will see podcasts, you will see electronics, you'll see that dinosaur thing. You'll see lots of stuff. And it's always changing. It's always a lot of fun. And hopefully it's getting better because the opposite would be bad. So yes. Better is good.
Yeah, I have noticed that you've switched more to kind of like a tile format and almost like an endless scrolling kind of I don't know motif about it. I mean, we haven't talked about kind of updating and maintaining a website and that kind of thing in quite some time. I mean, staying up on the latest website and internet trends is, if you don't pay attention for like a year, your website quickly becomes like, dated very quickly.
Check this out. Check this out. One thing I've discovered, as the webs have changed from, basic HTML to GeoCities to Tripod, remember those, to, what we call, all-inclusive responsive design. That basically means it's a website that transforms
and goes
to whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Basically, it's the Bruce Lee website. You put water into a teacup, it becomes the teacup. You put water into a bowl, it becomes the bowl. Well, the problem about that is that the needs change. And I think we're in the middle of a great change, sort of like a Cambrian explosion of new stuff. And what that means, what that translates to websites, is our days are numbered, because there's a lot of evidence to suggest that the trends of the way things are going. For example, like Computer America, you're cool. You have Twitch, you have online stuff. Poor old Popzara doesn't. So we're cheating a little bit. We have a podcast that's pretty that has a sizable user base. But if you click on stories, like for example, click on that story. You can't see it at home, but click on the Crudes, A New Age.
Sure.
Yep. Look at that. Go down a little bit. It's changing, by the way. Look at that. Click that button. You could have the story read to you.
Yep, absolutely.
See, I was working on that thing for a long time, and now everyone's got it. So copycats. But eventually, the whole concept is that the website itself will become a podcast, because not everybody. Can I be charitable, Ben? Sure. Not everybody has the funds or the means or the genetically blessed aesthetics to make a great visual representation. And so podcasts are definitely like a good, happy median between the both. I mean, you're driving, you're doing this. And for the most part, even Popzara, when you have a podcast, the content is different. Even on our own podcast, the content is different. Like if you were to go to a podcast and listen to the podcast, which I hope you don't, right now on the show, because I have to hear my own voice. I don't know how you people do it, but and you read the text that we put. It's different text. To get the whole thing, you have to do it. But increasingly, you have to sort of homogenize, and you have to go try to create a singular product. It is very hard to merge text and audio in a way that's doesn't demean both. And so we're working towards that. That's kind of the next level thing.
Yeah, they're and I think people have seen exactly what you're talking about, in regards to things like YouTube and other platforms that have gotten so much more traction than traditional pages of text. And like there's a reason, like let's say one of those places that does have the funding to do that kind of thing. Let's take like CNN for instance, and you click on like any one of these random stories, sure, horrible story about Lady Gaga's dog, and that whole thing, but like they have that, and then right here at the very top it's a video. Like even they're trying to blend video, audio, and text. Can I say
they're actually gaming the system when they do this. What you're seeing right now on the CNN website is a cheat, because sometimes the corresponding video stories don't have anything to do with the stories. So for example, if you're looking up something on Google search or Bing search and you type in video, a lot of times you'll see videos in the responses that have nothing to do with the story you're looking for. So what they're doing is they've found a way to use the sort of the desire to see video as a way to game the system, game the SEO system. And I hate it when they do that. I think it's terrible. So, but it is what it is.
But my kind of offhanded, kind of point about that, and why I'm still, very much a fan of what you do there, is that text is never going to go away. Like video, audio, that's great. Definitely bring that in. People consume media in different ways. They don't sit down in front of a computer and read articles for 2 hours. I don't think anyone does that anymore. But someone may watch TV, play video games, or have something on in the background, and having that option there makes perfect sense.
Yes.
So,
and there's also there's just something about text, and I don't think this is something someone who grew up with text likes, but I think if we're being honest with each other, you really have to sort of curtail your desire to be relevant in many ways, because if you're looking for the long-term thing, and I'll be honest with you, and I mean no disrespect to a lot of people out there that are doing what they need to do, the fact that you can pick up a $50 phone at Walmart and create a media empire from it is pretty damn cool. And I like that. I think it's really cool. You could do podcast website. You don't even need any talent. You could do it. In fact, that's usually what goes along with it. But for those, there are some of us with one foot in the factual and one foot in the future. And what I mean by that is that we are building something that's not just tertiary. You're looking at something that you want to be around for a while. Like if you look at Popzara's database, we have a very good database. Like we have a lot of stuff that needs to be cataloged. It's like a hoarder moving from one house to the other. You don't get a moving truck, you get a train. And so you got to haul this crap with you everywhere you go. So one little change is systemic and it sort of bleeds into a million little things. But the more you do it, the more fun it is because you can see the evolution. You can see where you're going from it. And like you said, it's a more responsive design. But even something like this, even something, I'll say it, even going to something as simple as squares and text is very difficult sometimes because you have to manage. Like you look at what you're seeing, that's all data. Everything has to be cataloged and rejiggered and all this stuff. And it has to look good. And it has to look good without you doing anything about it. And that's hard.
Nathan, and you say that, but at the same time, Razor said it has to look good. And then you have Monster Hunter 2020 up on the screen and, up on your website and, looking good and Monster Hunter right there, Monster Hunter, the movie right there. I don't know if that really flows with what you're saying.
Hey, we're impartial. We're impartial.
Yeah, but I think you can be a little partial away from Monster Hunter. It was, you know what? Your reviewers had it right. I read the kind of the synopsis at the end of that one, but man, what a mess. Now, with that being said,
so you saw the film?
Yeah, bits and pieces. I could barely follow it, but I'm not a huge moviegoer anyways. But there was lots of gore, lots of blood, lots of action, and that part was fun.
From the director, by the way, of the original Mortal Kombat and the Resident Evil franchise.
That explains it. Mortal Kombat.
Yay!
Yeah.
Not the new Mortal Kombat. Not the new one that looks interesting.
90s. Yeah. You think the new one looks interesting? I think
it looks cheap. I think it looks cheap.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. The original Mortal Kombat, which is a game based on blood and violence and everything, the movie had almost none of it. It was all clean and sanitized.
But the PG-13, right?
PG-13. But the reason it succeeded, though, is because it was able to find that element of Mortal Kombat that was still relevant, which is deep down beyond a lot of stuff. It was more than just a Street Fighter clone. I mean, it wasn't as good as Street Fighter. Let's be honest here. The video game Street Fighter is the best fighting game, but Mortal Kombat was able to translate better than the Street Fighter game was because they hewed more to what the game was about. And they got those elements right. Whereas the Street Fighter movie at the time, which was not a game based on blood and violence, was a farcical farce. I mean, it had good acting from Raul Julia, but the movie's a mess. Although I will say this, though. I will say this and be gone with it. Mm-hmm. In 2021, I would rather watch the Street Fighter movie than the Mortal Kombat movie because all that stuff that was probably not intentionally campy is now campy, and it's a lot more fun. Whereas Mortal Kombat, that franchise just went down. It went to some horrible places, and I cannot believe the video game series has righted itself. But the new movie itself, I mean, if you watch the unrated trailer, it still looks cheap and cheesy, but it seems to get the new video games really well. Yeah. But it's going to need more than just like CG effects. It's got to have something in there. And how do I say this? It's nice to see Asian characters Asian again, because that was a problem in the original Mortal Kombat movie.
Yeah. Raiden was, not
Christopher Lambert. And then he was Surfer Dude. Yes. But no, I mean, it had things like "Get Over Here," but it's a little, with an accent like "Get Over Here," the original Mortal Kombat music. I mean, it had CG Goro. I mean, the fact that we're getting a Mortal Kombat movie in 2021 sounds pretty intense to me. Anyway. So
I'm definitely going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it. That was one of the first movies that I was like, I'm really into it because at the time, I was like, 8 or something like that when I first saw it. Like I remember seeing it finally hit the VHS store, shelf. And I was like, finally I can rent this thing and watch it. And that was.
Can I say something to your fans, to your listeners? Mortal Kombat is one of those games that has a very specific place in history, more so about the home version than the arcade. Because the original home version of the game, and I'll make it quick, was released on the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo. And for all intents and purposes, if we're just talking aesthetics, the Super Nintendo version blew the Genesis version out of the water. It looked like the arcade. It had all the voices. It had deep bass. The sound was better. It looked like the arcade. It played like crap, and it had no blood. The Genesis version looked terrible. It had horrible sound effects, so much missing. Graphics were grainy, terrible. Like I said, bips and bops instead of, no, get over here or finish him. None of that. But it played like a dream, and it had the blood. And for any time anybody brings up graphics and everything, yeah, my answer is, can we have both? But at the end of the day, I'd rather have a game that plays better, looks worse, than a game that looks beautiful and plays like crap.
Right.
And
I will say that the I had that on the original Game Boy, so graphics were, you could have neither, I guess, at the same time.
We referenced that game on Popzara.
Yeah.
Like 2 months ago. Game Boy Mortal. If you look at the review we posted for Doom Eternal for the Switch, we actually have a link. If you click on that link for Doom Eternal on the Switch, there's a link to a trailer for the Game Boy version of Mortal Kombat.
There you go. And I'm sure it's it's kind of buried back in there, but yeah, I vividly recall my mother telling the story later that when I was like coming out of like second grade, I came home one day and said, "Mom, I need Moto Combat," and it was Moto Combat, and like that was the game that I had, and I think my mom said something along the lines of, "When you can say it correctly, you can have it." And it took a couple days, but I finally got it. And my whole point is the 2021 movie. It can be absolute dreck. I'm gonna love it, and it's just gonna be one of those nostalgia trips for me.
Well,
that's
let me say this: the 1994 Street Fighter movie with Raul Julia and John Van Damme.
I have not seen that.
People said, "Oh, this is terrible. How could it?" And then they announced a few years ago, they announced a new Street Fighter movie called The Legend of Chun-Li, and we thought, how could it get any worse? Oh, it got worse. So yeah, so it could always. And by the way, Mortal Kombat, for all you naysayers out there, the 1995 movie directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. There's two directors in Hollywood, both named Paul Anderson. One's Paul W. Anderson. One's Paul W.S. Anderson. One of them directs Oscar prestige films. The other one directs Mortal Kombat. And so Mortal Kombat Annihilation was the sequel that came out in 97. Ben, it is one of the worst movies ever made. It is one of the, in every respect, it is not fun bad. It's bad.
I recall that one too. I saw that, and I don't really remember it because I was kind of young at the time, but I do remember like the very opening scene, and I remember even back then I was like, it's a contract dispute. They killed Johnny Cage in spoilers in like the first like 2 seconds just to make a point, and I was like, I like Johnny Cage, and they just knocked his character off.
They killed half the characters. They killed off characters they didn't even introduce off screen. That's how bad this movie was. Like, wow, that other movie we could be watching sounds pretty exciting. I want to see some of that. No, you're not going to see that. Okay. Here's some balls and fire. So.
Well, there you go. And now so I'm looking forward to that. Now, to get back a little bit on topic, we have a ton of stories here that we can, of course, cover. And you sent over a number of them. I found some as well. But I wanted to do with the obvious one because I did cover this on, I think, yesterday's show. Yeah, it was definitely yesterday's show. Fry's Electronics, you found this as well, and I was wondering why, because before the show we were talking about all the other technology retail chains, and I was wondering what sentimentality you had to Fry's and why this struck you.
Accidental. I didn't grow up around Fry's. Fry's was mostly a West Coast thing. But when I moved out to California in the late 90s to work in the business, I was adjacent right to, not Silicon Valley, but I was the LA Silicon Valley, which was Westwood, California. And in the business we worked with electronics, we worked with games and technology. So Fry's was the place. And Best Buy existed, but Best Buy was Disneyland, whereas Fry's was like, the penthouse store. Like, you got to see how everything was made. You got to make your own stuff. You can go in there and buy motherboards. You can go in there and buy CPUs. And every Fry's was themed to a different theme. And back in the day, back in the day, our fries was themed to Alice in Wonderland. So you had this amazing store that was unlike anything you had ever seen. If you didn't see something, if you didn't see CompUSA, there were some other stores like this, but it was this giant Wonderland. You could buy pretty much anything you want and walk out. I built my first computer with fries. At the office, we built all our rigs, all our production machines from fries, because where else could you do that? Mm-hmm. When you had to build a Pentium 2. By the way, Pentium 2 with 16 megs of RAM and a Voodoo processor.
Voodoo,
but
yes, Voodoo was actually one of the first sponsors of Computer America. By the way, I don't know if you know that, but
no,
yeah.
By the way, Voodoo was a big Mortal Kombat supporter too. There you go. Yeah. It's all coming together.
There you go.
But but fries, you could go there and you could see things at Fry's in the 90s and the early 2000s you couldn't see anywhere else, because at the time, this is going to sound weird to people before Amazon, but you had to go to certain stores to buy certain things. And there would be store exclusivity. I remember one time we went into a Fry's. This was back in probably 1999. Mm-hmm. And they had Japanese Japanese consoles. They had Japanese Saturn, all this. And they had RGB boxes where you could hook your boxes up to RGB monitors. And it looked amazing. You couldn't buy that at Best Buy. It's crazy.
And I think what really I did not grow up around Fry's either, and currently, I mean, they're closing up business. Everyone's like, oh no, how could this happen? But at the same time, though, Nathan, obviously, it's it's a little bit like I got to say that Office Depot is doing a little bit better than Fry's, but it's a little bit like going into Office Depot or in some Best Buys. The shelves are still kind of bare. I mean, like when you Google things, bam, a trillion things pop up. When you go into a physical store, the selection seems mediocre at best. Like Fry's going out of business should not have been a surprise, and the fact that this kind of
it's been called a surprise because I don't think a lot of people have actually been in a Fry's lately. But in 2019, I actually spent quite a bit of time in the West Coast. I went back to California. I was in Vegas in 2000. In fact, after I saw you at CES last year, I actually took my coworker Chris, mm-hmm. and we actually went to the Fry's in Vegas, which is actually pretty impressive. It was kind of cool because there was a beat-up DeLorean parked out front, and the license plate in the old beat-up DeLorean said "Time Traveler." So, yeah. By the way, a DeLorean doesn't look very impressive in real life. So, but no, you go into Fry's, but then you get this sinking feeling, like, wow, I really like what Fry's does, and then you go into one, and you're like, I can do better, because you can do better, and the better version of Fry's is called Micro Center, which still exists, and it's all over the country. It's not as isolated as Fry's either. I've been to every Micro Center pretty much in the country, with the exception of like down south. I also on that same trip went to a Micro Center near Los Angeles, which was 1,000,000 times better than Fry's. I went to one in Cambridge, which is 1,000,000 times better than Fry's. I went to the one I frequently go to the one in Kansas, which is 1,000,000 times better than Fry's. It's a better version of what Fry's used to be. And so I can't really complain, mm-hmm. but I do have some nostalgia. And I did, out of sentimental value, I did go out and buy some like battery chargers and some power drinks, but I just couldn't find anything worth spending money on that I couldn't do better on Amazon or, like I said, or in a physical store.
Yeah.
That being said, final thought, Best Buy's taken up the slack, and so is Walmart a little bit. You can go into a Best Buy and buy motherboards now. You buy video cards. You can buy components and build a computer. It's not as good as Fry's used to be. It's not as good as Micro Center, but it's there. They're making baby steps.
Yeah, Best Buy has definitely stepped up a little bit. Walmart as well, and I don't know. I think I read somewhere in this article or somewhere else that 31 stores across 9 U.S. states. I don't know. It's just all. It just reminds me of kind of what we talked about before, Nathan, with Sears. That all these Radio Shack, CompUSA, Fry's, they were all so well positioned in the right market, and none of them, I guess, could transition fast enough or kind of pick up where they all kind of started.
I've often found when people say that Amazon or Barnes and Noble or whatever took down some major business, you usually find out after the fact that the business itself was run like garbage. And so like when people blame Netflix on Blockbuster imploding, no, mm-hmm. Blockbuster was its own worst enemy. And I imagine when I went into Fry's last year, it was a sad state of affairs.
So this brings up another thing, and by the way, we can transition a little bit if you want into GameStop, but the transformation that the executives, the newly invested executives and investors and whatever are trying to do to GameStop, what do you think about that, where they're trying to turn and maybe it's like my fond memories of Mortal Kombat, but there is some sentimentality to be had with GameStop, and they come in, they buy it for cheap or invest pretty cheap, and they're trying to turn around, ignoring a lot of the crazy stock, that's been happening, but rather, the founder of Chewy decided that he can turn GameStop into kind of like a pop culture, ship more online business, that kind of thing. I guess instead of sending dog food on a schedule, they're going to send nerd food on a schedule. And yeah, so what do you think about something like that, where, these last few remaining I guess kind of icons or slowly fading icons, someone's going to come in and try to spruce it up and try to, I don't know about save it, but at least, turn it into something that sticks around.
So I was at Best Buy a couple weeks ago, and we were looking at some of their posts. I know, but no, I mean, you do what you can. Mm-hmm. And Best Buy is a great place to buy a TV after the Super Bowl.
Really?
Because lots of people buy TVs during the Super Bowl, and I don't need these anymore. So, our tech guy, Herman, we love playing with the goods. And so we noticed when we go and play with TVs, I don't want to reveal a state secret, but we show up. And I mean, is we bring testers, we bring Apple 4K TVs, we bring game consoles, we bring laptops, we bring everything. They hate us, and they've learned to leave us alone, which is good. And so, because they're not getting commission anyway, so why waste their time? Why give them false hope? So, but we go and we test the TVs out. And because some people want to know, and we have fun. And so we go to this one Best Buy where we know the guy there, and he lets us play, and we have a lot of fun. And we played Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse on Xbox One X, which is 4K HDR. It's a fantastic movie to test HDR. And he says, you better buy it while you can. And we find out that Best Buy is getting rid of their Blu-rays.
Really?
And they're going to basically limit Blu-rays to 4K Blu-rays in a small stash, the same way they did with CDs and VHS and other media. However, they're going to continue selling 4K Blu-rays, and like the way they sell vinyl records. And so what's happening is a thinning of the herd, an acknowledgement of the change in media, an acknowledgement of a change in the landscape. And God, I'm gonna get death threats for this. But if you watch half the YouTube videos out there with people like angry gamer guy or gamer girl or whatever, you always see those people with those bookcases in the background, and you can see the spines of their PlayStation and GameCube games, their collection, their old DVDs, and they got the same thing. It's like they bought a template or something,
like a starter pack.
Yeah. By the way, they literally do sell a shower curtain with books on it for Zoom meetings. It's real. It's a real thing. Look at me. I like intellectual things. So anyway.
Or you'd be like me, just buy a green screen, and then you can, have whatever you want behind you, or nothing.
It's more important that people think you are than being you are. So anyway, so basically, but people are really proud of this idea of media. They love to say, it's like if you go into a furniture store and they have a giant copy of Moby Dick, like, Moby, it's plastic. It's just, it's an ornament. It's garnish on a steak. So what's happening is that media is being weaned, and we're starting to see a return to genre media. Again, you have vinyl records. You have I said it on this very show. I was surprised when vinyl records started showing up at Walmart, because vinyl is selling well. It's never going to sell as well as Spotify music subscriptions. It's never going to sell as well as Apple Music. But for the people who want it and are willing to pay more for it, it's available. And it turns out that at some point, it's like a transition, it's like a butterfly metamorphosis. Everything starts out as niche, it becomes mainstream, and it goes back to being niche if it's a good product. And so, I mean, what else could explain like the Backstreet Boys on tour with New Kids on the Block? They're just in the third phase. So, but now you could buy records, you could buy vinyl, you could buy Blu-rays. So, but I don't need to like deal with crappy Blu-ray packages and those bargain bins, like those Scrooge McDuck bargain bins at Walmart where they just fill it with DVDs and you got to go diving in there for something. Mm-hmm. Like five, and they're all Nicolas Cage movies, by the way. But now I can go and spend $20 on a Blu-ray if I want to, on a 4K Blu-ray that's loaded with features. It's a good package. It's surprisingly good, and it's wonderful. And that's great to me. I would rather have a better choice than necessarily having more choice. Like I don't need Adam Sandler movies on the Criterion Collection,
Right.
So
So you definitely think that there's a place for that, and
Yes.
and by the way, yesterday when I was doing the show, I'm sorry, Wednesday when I was doing the show, I was trying to look up things on Reddit, and this is like a complete aside, but thanks to GameStop, I was trying to look up things on Reddit because at least Reddit, there are people there saying, hey, this is what we're interested in. So I was like, hey, what's going on? And the whole place was down. Like, it went down at like 4:30, and it was because the stock price went back up like 300% or something like that. I thought it was a DDoS attack. Like I thought it was like a security issue, but no, it turns out it was just GameStop stock doing things. So craziness. But with that, Nathan, I think we can go ahead and move on to something that I think you can get a little bit less bothered by, or a little bit less excited by, and that would be super follows. And this seems to be I guess the OnlyFans answer for Twitter, that hey, that if you have such an amazing tweet, just so this idea of exclusivity, and Twitch with Amazon tried that, and I don't think it's been very successful, where you could do subscriber only streams, and you could do people who have paid you X amount of money to specifically get certain content. That overall, that model has been sneaking up here and there, and I have yet to kind of see it take off.
It's not going to take off.
So let's switch over to Twitter. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like the paywalls that every newspaper tries to get, that you can circumvent by just like hiding your cookies or something.
Browser.
Yeah, or switch to a browser. Like there's ways around it, and I love it when I see like my fellow editors, and I know they try to monetize, and I feel for them. But if you're going to do this, if you're going to gate your content, don't be snarky about it. Like, oh, there's only so much before we put up the paywall. Oh, no, challenge accepted, my friend.
Yeah.
Like, so here's how you circumvent this. It's called screenshot share.
Screenshot? Yeah, of course.
That's how you circumvent it. I'm not paying for your damn tweet. Like OnlyFans, things like this, it's called screenshot share. That's how you do it. If like there will be people. Okay, it's like if you go on torrent sites, which I'm not suggesting you do, but if you go on torrent sites, you will find the latest and greatest movies minutes after they get available, because there are people who will literally pay for the content so they can share it. So there will be people who will pay for this just to spite Twitter.
Those are the people that I think there are pirates,
the real heroes.
I don't know about heroes, but they're pirates, but they are pirates in like spirit, where some people pirate because they don't have the means to afford something. Some people pirate because they don't have access to content. Some people pirate because hey, it's the immediacy of it all. But other people pirate for, like what you said, to actually make the information, the video, the photos, the game, whatever, to make it available to everyone. Like those are the true pirates. Everyone else is just following in their wake.
Well,
those are the leaders.
Here's the thing though. This isn't really a product though. The idea that your tweets need to be so, like the whole concept of Twitter. The only way people make money on Twitter is sponsored content. So what you're saying is that if I'm Kim Kardashian and I really need to talk to you about this really cool Chardonnay that I discovered, or this cool new dress that I just happened to find on the shelves, like, totally coincidentally, wink, wink. And I'm going to go off and I'm going to have a totally natural, professionally photographed photo shoot so I can show you off this totally random product that I found that, BS. I'm getting paid to do everything. And so,
although and by the way, just real quick, I said OnlyFans because that's been in the news lately. Patreon, I think, was the one that pioneered this whole thing, that you pay a monthly subscription, or you pay for a service and you get exclusive content. And I think Patreon, more so.
Yeah, but Patreon though isn't okay. Let me tell you where you're right and you're a little off, and I'll tell you why. You're more close. You're right. You're more close to being right when you talk about porn. So, and that's what Twitter is doing, because here's the thing. what Twitter is asking you to do is they're asking you to take this fan base that you've amassed, which again, the only way you make money on Twitter is to have a large fan base and sponsor content to them.
And pimp out your audience, yes.
Yeah, and pimp out your audience. That's it. That's the only way. Like it doesn't. Nothing else. You cannot make any money with Twitter. There is no monetization to be had with Twitter other than to exploit your fan base. That's it. So what you're saying is this fan base, which you're already getting paid to exploit, you now want to further squeeze to sort of juice the rind by locking away certain content for this. And okay, this is where you're right. Patreon does the same thing, but Patreon doesn't exactly host anything. Patreon is an intermediary that allows people to monetize content in different versions. For example, the content is there whether you want it or not. What Patreon does, it allows content creators to unlock certain items elsewhere. So if you have a podcast and I think the only podcast network that really does this is Stitcher Premium. Mm-hmm. So you go to Stitcher Premium, you can gate certain podcasts that you can unlock by going into different formats. Whereas,
and sorry to keep cutting you off, but like that one in particular, Stitcher Premium, we were invited to do that, and they were like, well, do you do the show with ads? And yeah, we have ads here and there, and they're like, can you do it without ads or something like that? And I was like, yeah, that'd be pretty easy to do because let's face it, most of the show here is sans ads. We kind of add them in after the fact, and they were like, all right, great, we want to put it behind our Stitcher Premium service. And I was like, it's going to be the same show, regardless. And it's, kind of ad free or with ads, plus or minus 30 seconds. I felt like locking it behind any kind of wall. And I'm going to feel this way about tweets. I'm going to feel this way about anything that you build up an audience by giving away content or creating content that is meant to be shared. And then you throw up a wall. It just seems so, I don't know about rude, but it seems so
arrogant.
Anti to your mission.
No, it's arrogant. And I'll tell you what, it's like the Simpsons movie that came out in 2007. And you remember at the very beginning of the movie, they showed the Simpsons in a theater, mm-hmm. and they're watching a trailer for the Itchy and Scratchy movie.
Right.
And Homer just gets up and goes, "Hey, they're charging us for something they used to give away for free." It's like three meta jokes in one. And that's what these things are. It's like they want, like we've talked about this on YouTube. You don't matter. Like your loyalty will be rewarded with bullwhips because they don't care. The moment you're only being used to build a platform, and the moment the platform is built and they feel that they can monetize, you will be monetized out of the platform. This is how it goes, and not just online. It's like let's say you're a loyal subscriber to Time Magazine. You've been a Time Magazine subscriber. I don't know why, but you are for 10 years. Oh, new subscribers get 2 years free. Wait a minute, I'm loyal. Why does he get the deal? Because they already got you.
Too. Yeah.
They already got you. No incentive for you. You're done. You're old news.
Do you recall? Speaking of old news, do you recall that story about 3 weeks ago? I think it was like an AT&T subscriber who out in California was still getting DSL 3 megabits per second.
The 90-year-old who did it.
Yes. And he was a subscriber to the server for. I'm sorry, it might have been Comcast. It was like Comcast or AT&T.
AT&T, I think. I think it was AT&T.
Yeah. It was a subscriber to AT&T for like 53 years. I think is where the 3 came from. 53 years. Took an ad out in the paper in New York and somewhere in Texas to get their headquarters. And yeah, like you said, he's been probably one of their most loyal customers. Like he even published his email address, which was still at a bell, like a bell something.net, whatever it was. And yeah, no, like his neighborhood in California shamed them. The competitors, it's not like he lives somewhere remote and they couldn't get him. The other competitors in his neighborhood were offering 300, 400, 500 megabits per second. And his internet provider for the last 53 years deemed it okay to keep him at 3 megabits per second.
Okay, I got a PSA for the listeners of Computer America, and this comes from the heart. About every 3-4 months, maybe 6 months tops, call your ISP. Find out what the deals are, because they ain't telling you it most of the time. Like you would be shocked that you may find out your service has gone way, way up. You may find out that your modems and your routers have been upgraded. I have this problem all the time. And Popzara editors, if you're listening, you know who you are because you never listen. Every time they got connection problems. Let me tell you the story of one of my guys. He wanted I think I mentioned this. He wanted Cyberpunk 2077 on Stadia. Didn't have a game console. Got him everything. Played on his Mac. Worked okay. This is when they had the promotion for, they'll give you the Chromecast Ultra and this thing for free. He hooked it up to his 50-inch TCL TV, ran like garbage. I was like, oh no, I guess it doesn't work. I was like, what ISP do you have? Oh, I have a Spectrum. Oh, really? Call Spectrum. Say, replace my modem. Oh, but I've had my modem forever. Exactly. He called Spectrum, switched out the modem, fixed every problem. He's getting 300 megabits down now. He was getting like 5 because they're not going to come out and do it for you. They really don't hope you do this. They will be forced to do it. So here's what you have to do. Call and find out.
Yeah, and I've told this story on the air. I had a similar problem with my internet provider. I won't say who they are because I talk so much crap about them that I can't say who they are. But I had a similar problem where they were first launching, 300 megabits per second in my area, and they sent a router out. Nathan, they did not have new routers for the new speeds. And the speed of the internet was actually crippling the router and actually ruining my internet connection. I had to pay for my own router, which is, I'm sorry, not router, modem. I had to pay for my own modem, which is fine. I don't mind that at all because, I got a really nice one for like $50. Modems are cheap. So I got a nice one that could handle the new speeds. The problem, Nathan, was that for the next year and a half, I had to keep paying them because they would not let me return it and stop
for the modem
monthly
rental
fee.
Right?
Yeah,
for the modem rental.
I had to pay, you have to pay the modem rental, even though it was sitting in a box doing nothing. That happened, and I'm still mad about it.
Yeah, this is why I'm a bleeding heart capitalist, right? Look everywhere, demand better, right? Demand better, but just call your own service. They're not going to tell you. Look, okay. A couple of years back, years and years ago, about 5 years ago, I was shocked as Shinola when Comcast or Xfinity actually got a hold of me and said, hey, we're upgrading you for free. By the way, we're going to waive the box fee. I was like, ooh, this is magic. What happened? I was like, why are they being so nice to me? They upgraded everything. I went from 200 megs to 400 megs. I had a new motor. The new thing looked like the glyph in 2001 Space Odyssey, not the old Motorola surfboards. It looked great. And I found out it's because Google was in the neighborhood competing. So to keep people, they were giving away the goods. So so unless they're motivated, they're not going to do it. So call your ISP, find out what's going on, see if you got a better deal, and then take the deal. Like that's what you do if you want to save money. But you would be shocked, Ben, how many people are so either lazy, apathetic, or lethargic, or they just don't care about getting a better service for less money.
The companies have kind of wisened up to it. That the game used to be that we used to advise people here do on the show, which is do the song and dance where you go, hey, I love the service, but I'm seeing some of your I'm seeing your competitors.
Yeah.
We need to cancel our service, and then they would send you over to a team called retention, and retention would then give you those deals that you're talking about, Nathan. They don't do that anymore. They're just like, good luck with that, because they know that most of them are effectively monopolies. What they do, what you have to do instead now is do I qualify for any new promotions, and do that whenever your old promotional
do your
rate
research first
expires.
though. Don't ask them. Do your research. Find out what you got. Find out what's going on. And by the way, little known dirty secret about the phone industry: the retention department and the cancellation department, same department. So that's all you are. You are a service to be retained. So, but no, I mean, call first, find out what you can do. And I was going back to the Twitter thing, for example. Again, this old man shamed them into doing this. But again, that's the other power of Twitter. Like the other superpower you have from having a large fan base isn't necessarily to monetize, but it's to disrupt. And as we've seen many, many times in 2020 and the last few years, you can create chaos with a large fan base. You can literally ruin people's lives. So the power comes from the power to disrupt, which again is itself disrupted when you start gating tweets with money. Like if you're going to start gating them, what you're doing is you're putting shackles on your own influence for money. So are you going to trade the power of influence, or are you going to make a quick buck off it? I mean, and I'm not here to give Twitter advice. So
I also think that there's there's some statistic that I remember from a while ago about the number of people who are actually involved in Twitter, and the amount of like the kind of the news organizations and the companies and whatever, how many people have actually spent money to advertise on Twitter, and how many people just use it as a way to gain that audience, and a fraction of a fraction actually spend money on Twitter. By the way, it's because it's a horrible return on investment. But on top of that, companies are not really willing to pay for this kind of thing, and it amazes me to think that I don't know how much money Twitter is putting into this project, but I don't see free users of Twitter, because there has never been any kind of payment that an average user can kind of pay for. I don't see anyone paying for anything on Twitter as a user.
Let me tell you something real quick before we get off, and I don't want to get off topic, but this is permanent. The conservative argument is that even though, ironically, the conservatives have poo-pooed Twitter for the last few years, saying they've been demonetized, they've been deplatformed, and to a large extent, they're correct. They have been targeted. But at the same point, they would also argue that Twitter's a free, it's a free enterprise. They should be able to do what they want. So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. The problem, though, I don't buy either argument. I think Twitter should be able to ban whoever they want, so to speak. However, the problem with Twitter, the whole transaction is that we give you this product for free, and therefore we can do whatever we want with the data. But increasingly, though, they're asking money. They're asking money from advertisers. They're asking money from users. They're asking money from this. And people forget that contracts exist to help both parties. When you agree to Twitter's EUAL or license agreement, you're paying for specific protections as well. And this has been a sticking point with Silicon Valley, especially since Sony was hacked years ago. And they very famously changed their end license agreement, saying you can't sue us if you lose your money in your bank account, which happened. So the problem, though, is that if Twitter and if you and Twitter enter into an agreement that Twitter has sold you the idea that you can use Twitter to build influence, to build prestige. Therefore, in some respect, Ben, I feel that your fan base, the Twitter fan base, represents a sort of commodization. That you have, that it's worth something, and that's something, your investment, that your influence, your image, your whatever, that should be protected by something. But Twitter says no, we can do whatever we want with you. And so I do think in some respect the laws need to change and realize that you know how we talk about taxes funding roads, and we found taxes fund libraries and everything. Well, in some respect, the digital highways exist for us. Like, there are people whose jobs require Twitter access or Facebook or LinkedIn access or Google access, whatever. And the idea that a Silicon Valley company with a push of a button can destroy that because you said something 10 years ago or they disagree with your view on something doesn't seem appropriate to me, any more than it seems appropriate than to kick someone out of a bakery because of how they feel, or to say someone who doesn't look like you can't sit at a counter. And I just find it both egregious and ignorant that someone would defend that anymore. I don't agree with it. Like, this is why I'm not political, because there's no political home for me. But okay, so Twitter wants you to pay them. So at what point is Twitter a publisher at this point? At what point? What's it going to take?
I guess
what's it going to take?
Their pushback on that one is that, well, again, the users are publishing the content, not themselves, and again, they're going to keep that they're going to keep that distinction as long as they can until some better laws are written to really further distinguish what
By the way, can I say this? So. Can I say this?
Yep.
I am not advocating taking over Twitter. No. I am not advocating splitting Twitter up. What I'm saying is there seems to be some sort of massive update, not just to Twitter, but all these social medias and all these electronic companies that have decided that it's not enough that they create a program or a platform, but that they've decided to direct the flow of the platform. I can't imagine another industry that doesn't have to abide by that. You can't just make a car company without following regulations. You just can't make a water company. I can't sell pickle juice without going through health regulations. Like, if a little girl starts a lemonade stand outside, you can bet they're going to ask where her license for food distribution is. Like, I don't understand why, and I'm not calling necessarily for regulation, but to some sort of accountability for when Twitter and Facebook break their end of the bargain. And they've been allowed to run amok, and it's just preposterous to me.
That has definitely gotten off topic. And so I think we're going to very quickly get off topic on this one. And I was going to ask you how you felt about the recent hack of CD Projekt Red, because that happened since you were last on. And that whole thing, I don't know if you had any input on that.
Not so much input. I feel bad for them. The companies mismanage themselves a lot. I don't, but I have to be careful about like peeing on a fire because I don't like what the company did. They're a private company. They are entitled to privacy. They have intellectual data that should be they should be protected. I know there's a lot of class action lawsuits going on right now, but I err on the side of caution, and I think that as a fan, you are entitled to the product you bought. You are not entitled to the product you think you bought. So there is no promise that there's no promise that The Godfather 3 is going to be a transcendental experience. There's no promise that you're going to like the end of Mass Effect 3. There is no promise on that. So if the product works and everything, if they make a good faith effort to fix it, then so be it. But they didn't bait and switch anybody. You bought into the hype.
Right. And of course, that's Cyberpunk 2077. But I was also talking about the hack and the intellectual property kind of thing. And yeah, that whole thing.
Oh, no. Let me finish, though. But I think the hatred for this company over that and the fact them banning games in their adjacent GOG platform has made it almost seem acceptable that they were violated. And what I'm trying to say is, no, it wasn't right. They were violated.
Right. Yeah. I mean, theft is theft. Broken laws are broken laws, and that whole thing is the whole thing. Now, I wanted to do something fun because we're running out of time quickly, and I would be remiss. Sure. Speaking of fun things like Mortal Kombat, we've fries, we've done the nostalgia trip, but something that has lasted, and I've seen article after article saying they've even aged better. Pokemon 25, although I'll be honest. Post Malone, not the first face that comes to my mind when I think Pokemon, but if nothing else, why not Ryan Reynolds? But I guess a concert, Ryan Reynolds.
Why not Danny DeVito?
Music. Yeah, why not Danny DeVito? Indeed. Didn't people want him to be Pikachu?
They really did. I could. That would have been great. I'm sorry. Yeah. Post Malone, because he probably said yes. At least it wasn't John Legend. At least it was. And by all accounts, Post Malone seems like a nice guy, and he's genuinely popular.
And I do think his love of Pokemon is pretty well recorded. So
how old is he, by the way? He's not that old.
No. Let's see. Post Malone age. He is
95. Oh, he's the same age as Pokemon. He's younger than Pokemon.
Yeah, he's 25 years old. Yeah, 25.
He's younger than Pokemon, and he looks like he's 40. Don't tattoo your face. Don't do it.
Yeah, so, but still, an online concert, and I don't know if you caught any of the other online concerts. There was one, Nathan, I know your favorite hangouts in Roblox and Fortnite.
No, I don't give craps about Fortnite, but I do give craps about Twitch and that whole Metallica debacle that happened last week. Did you see that?
Are you talking about BlizzCon Live?
BlizzCon Live. Did you see what happened with Metallica? This is fantastic. This made me laugh.
Not BlizzCon Live, by the way. It was BlizzCon Line. That's what they called it.
Okay, something with Blizz and Cons and Metallica. Look it up. So, long story short, Metallica was giving a live performance on most of the channels because the Twitch feed didn't have the rights to distribute the music that was being played live by the band they had hired. They had to substitute Metallica's thrashing for this weird elevator bit tune music, and to watch just the cognitive dissonance of watching Metallica. And can you imagine someone watching Metallica and expecting, enter Sandman, and they get this
I know, right?
And you know who I blame? I blame Metallica because they started this. They started this whole thing.
I blame Amazon. Amazon and Twitch are just so the fact that Facebook is able to strike a deal with Universal Records or something like that. Anything on Spotify, you are allowed to play on a live stream on Facebook Live. Admittedly, much smaller audience, much smaller numbers you're talking about, but still, they were able to get the rights. The fact that the premier live streaming service cannot get any music contracts or rights or anything like that.
That's because Twitch is so mismanaged. Twitch
God.
Is you know what Twitch is? Twitch is like the stepbrother that you didn't know you had, but you're sending checks to every month because there's no integration between Twitch. I was playing with Amazon Luna a while ago because I got invited to the beta. There's really no integration with Twitch. There's nothing there. But But again, no, Ben, I blame Metallica because Metallica was the band that stood up and brought Napster to court. They testified
Piracy.
in front of Congress.
Yep.
Yeah. And because, I admit it. I was a big Metallica fan at the time, but the fact of the matter is, but this is what happens when you want to make sure that everybody's got the dotted line signed and everything. And for those listeners who don't know, and I'll make it quick, musicians usually sign away most of the rights to their music. And so the record companies, the recording companies create these subcontracts that can be dished out on a per basis. Like you said, like, for example, when a politician wants to play a song, they rent the song, they get the small rights to it. And the musicians have no control over that. Like, they've already got the money from that. They've already been paid. And so they think, oh, no, I made a mistake. Sorry, it's not like an arranged marriage. You knew what you're getting into. But anyway, long story short, it's a really funny story.
Right. Yeah. And of course, that's I completely forgot about that. But I actually recall that now. But Pokemon 25, they're doing a couple special events here. Of course, they're going to tie in things like Pokemon Go and Pokemon Sword and Shield, at least. And they're doing like a TV collection thing here. This happens tomorrow, or I guess the whole thing culminates tomorrow.
Can we just say something, though?
What's that?
How impressive is it that Pokemon's still around? Pokemon has been around for a very long time.
It helps that they have their own company, kind of the Pokemon company outside of Nintendo, to help them, I don't know. Yeah.
No. I actually think it's the opposite. I don't think Pokemon would have been around without Nintendo. Nintendo is a company that is.
Okay, wait.
Well, it's a little bit of both. I'll say this.
I think that having their own company, their own marketing, their own branding, that kind of thing, but still being under Nintendo and still being super iconic for Nintendo helps them. But having their own company lets them do, let's face it, out of all of Nintendo's IPs, TV shows, movies, spin-offs, Pokemon has been way more, I guess, kind of branded than a lot of other Nintendo stuff.
That's true, but here's the thing, though. Nintendo has a distinction of being the only company on this earth, and that includes Disney, that is able to somehow keep their huge stable of characters vibrant and relevant in a way that frankly is only surprising to those people who don't know the history of Nintendo. And I'm not going to get into it now.
But their characters. They love their characters.
No, there's a business reason why they did it. Following the collapse of the Japanese Empire in World War II, the Japanese were not allowed to talk about their heritage very much, and so they were limited by the treaties of the constitutional treaties that they had to promote other products. And so Nintendo, which is a company that predates that, they were making Hanafuda playing cards, they were making love hotels. What they did is they started making cards for Disney. And Disney was very, very, very strict about how you take care of characters and how you respect intellectual property. And these are lessons that Nintendo not only learned to heart, they took as gospel. And so starting in the 1980s, when they realized they had this intellectual property, they've been very protective. Like, Nintendo will sue you into oblivion if they think you're copying something. They're very litigious.
Did you hear about a story came out a little while ago during an interview that I think Netflix was supposed to work on a series with Nintendo?
Yeah, I don't buy that story. I don't buy that story because I've actually been involved with Nintendo with Zelda stuff before myself. Nintendo is so the ego of that story, the ego that Nintendo would somehow cancel a multi-million-dollar deal because it was leaked that it might happen. Yeah. No. That's not how
Zelda,
Nintendo operates.
I think Zelda live action or like Zelda.
Yeah, there was talk back in the day when I was in the industry of Nintendo creating a Zelda thing, and the reason they didn't do it. And by the way, another thing to contradict this idiot's story, Nintendo is getting involved. They are creating content. There's a Super Mario movie coming from Illumination. These are all just rumors. You have to be very careful when you hear these people with delusions of grandeur. They think, oh, I stopped Nintendo because I said a thing. No, you didn't. Nintendo is much bigger than you think. And these multimedia entertainment products, no. Oh, can you imagine Nintendo? Oh, we're going to have this series with Netflix. Oh, no. But this nerd talked about it. Oh, we'll cancel it. No, it doesn't work like that. They're very protective. I'll tell you what happened, what really happened. Nintendo looked at all these other franchises, these Voltrons, these Transformers, all these shows that Netflix was producing, and they saw what we all saw. They're crap.
Yeah, and Netflix has been very open that they're not exactly looking for A quality stuff. They're looking for anything to fill their catalog.
It's quantity.
So yeah, quantity over quality. And I think Nintendo, of all the media companies out there and all the video game
results
companies,
speak for themselves.
Nintendo is quality. I definitely have to hand it to them. So congratulations to Pokemon and all that kind of thing. Nathan, music means that we're out of time. I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Welcome, Ben, and have a good weekend, everybody.
Have a good weekend, everyone. And of course, we'll be back Monday. And I think that coming up here, there might be a little change up next Friday. So everyone keep an eye out for that. Once again, last show before the contest ends. Enter the contest, enter the giveaway, and everyone will have winners for you next Monday. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.